You're scrolling through your phone at 11 p.m. Everyone else seems to be out, together, laughing. You are alone in a quiet room. Your chest feels tight. Your mind won't settle. That feeling has a name and is older than language itself. You call it loneliness. But loneliness isn't sadness. It isn't even really an emotion in the way you think. It's an alarm, a biological siren wired into you over millions of years screaming one message. You are unprotected. You are exposed. You need to find your group. Here's the strange part. That alarm doesn't know the difference between the African savannah 200,000 years ago and your bedroom tonight. It fires the same way either way. Let's go back, way back. For most of human history, survival was never an individual project. A lone human on the plains of ancient Africa was not a hero. A lone human was food. Big cats hunted in the dark. Rival groups raided for resources. A single person, without allies, without a fire to sit around, without others to watch their back while they slept, rarely lasted long. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying primate social groups and human evolution. His research suggests the human brain grew larger specifically to manage complex social bonds, not to build tools, not to hunt, to track who owed who a favor, who could be trusted, who might betray you. Your brain, in other words, is a social computer first and a survival tool second. Except those two things were never actually separate. Group living meant more eyes watching for predators, more hands gathering food, more warmth on a cold night. Groups survived. Individuals, more often than not, did not. So evolution needed a mechanism, something automatic, something that didn't require conscious thought. Fear works when a lion is chasing you. But what protects you when there's no lion in sight? Only the slow, invisible danger of being cut off from your people. That's where loneliness comes in. Think of hunger for a moment. Hunger isn't really about food. It's a signal. Your body detects low energy reserves and produces an unpleasant sensation specifically designed to make you do something about it. You feel it and you act. Loneliness works exactly the same way, except instead of monitoring your blood sugar, it's monitoring your social connection. When you're isolated, your brain interprets it as a resource deficit. Not calories this time. Protection, belonging, safety in numbers. Psychologist John Cacioppo, one of the founding researchers of the field known as social neuroscience, spent much of his career studying exactly this. His work found that loneliness triggers measurable changes in the body: elevated stress hormones, disrupted sleep, even changes in gene expression related to inflammation and immune function. Your body quite literally starts preparing for danger. Because for most of human history, being alone meant danger was close. Isn't that strange? A feeling you experience as purely emotional is actually your ancestors' survival system, still running in the background, still convinced you might be stalked through tall grass at any moment. Here's where it gets even stranger. Loneliness doesn't just make you feel bad, it changes how you perceive the world. Studies using brain imaging have shown that isolated individuals become more vigilant to social threat. They notice frowns faster. They interpret neutral expressions as more hostile. They expect rejection before it happens. At first, this sounds like a flaw, a glitch. But from an evolutionary standpoint, it makes perfect sense. If you've been cast out of the group or fear you might be, hyper-awareness to social danger could mean the difference between reconciling in time or being left behind for good. The system isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's just doing it in a world that no longer matches the one it was built for. Because here's the mismatch. For nearly all of human history, you lived in a small band, maybe 50 people, maybe 150 at most, which happens to be the number Dunbar's research identified as roughly the upper limit of stable relationships a human brain can maintain. You knew everyone. Everyone knew you. Your survival was distributed across dozens of relationships built over a lifetime. Now look at today. You might live in a city of millions and still feel like nobody would notice if you disappeared for a week. You can have hundreds of online followers and eat dinner alone every night. Your ancient alarm system has no framework for this. It doesn't understand crowded isolation. It only understands not enough people who would come looking for you. So the alarm keeps ringing, quietly, persistently, in the background of ordinary modern life. Researchers have started calling chronic loneliness an epidemic, and the health data backs up why that word isn't an exaggeration. A widely cited meta-analysis led by psychologist Julianne Holt-Lunstad examined data from over 300,000 participants and found that weak social connections were associated with a risk of early death comparable to smoking a pack of cigarettes a day and greater than risks associated with obesity or physical inactivity. Read that again. Loneliness, statistically, can be as dangerous as a cigarette habit. That number stops sounding abstract once you realize why. Your body isn't just uncomfortable when you're isolated. It's on alert. Elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, inflammation simmering under the surface for months or years at a time. A threat response with nowhere to discharge because there's no lion to run from, no rival tribe to negotiate with, just a persistent hum of unease that modern life rarely lets you name. And this is the twist most people never expect. Loneliness isn't a personal failure. It isn't proof that something is wrong with you specifically. It's proof that something ancient in you is working exactly as designed, just in an environment it was never built to interpret. Your ancestors who felt loneliness intensely, who found it unbearable enough to seek out the group, to repair relationships, to stay close to camp, were the ones who survived long enough to pass that trait forward. The people who could shrug off isolation without discomfort, who felt fine wandering off alone indefinitely, quietly disappeared from the gene pool. You are, in a very real sense, descended from the ones who couldn't stand being alone. So what do you do with an alarm that can't be switched off? You can't out-argue it with logic. Telling yourself, I'm fine, I don't need anyone, doesn't turn off a system that predates language, predates conscious reasoning entirely. But you can work with it instead of against it. Research on loneliness intervention consistently points to one thing that helps more than almost anything else. Not the size of your social circle, but the quality and reliability of a few close bonds. Not hundreds of contacts, a handful of people who would actually show up. Your ancient brain isn't counting followers. It's asking a much older question. If something went wrong tonight, who would come? That's the reframe worth sitting with. The tightness in your chest at 11 p.m., scrolling alone, isn't a malfunction. It isn't weakness. It's 200,000 years of ancestors whispering the same message they whispered to each other around fires long since gone cold. Find your people. Stay close. You were never built to do this alone. You're scrolling through your phone at 11 p.m. again tonight. But maybe now that feeling in your chest means something different. Not a flaw to hide, a signal to listen to.